realized I've been out of the military for too long, though. They got all these new uniforms, and I don't know what all the insignia means anymore.
That's no even done of a dog. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's meeting. If everyone could please stand, if you would like, and join in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our land acknowledgement is as follows. The Tlingit people have been indigenous to this land for over 10,000 years. Gunaklish to the Tlingit people for their stewardship of the Tlingit Ani since time immemorial and today. Great. Do we have visiting Rotarians today?
Look at me.
We have a visitor, but not, and his guests, but they're not visiting Rotarians. I don't think you're not a Rotarian, right?
Okay. Do we have visitors
So,
today? Yes.
from time immemorial, not far back as Tlingit Ani, but Alaska Pulp Corporation was here from 59 when they started producing. So before that, until 1993, and the whole time, Atsuo Sonoda was part of Alaska Pulp Corporation, Alaska Lumber Pulp, and then Pulp Corporation. He has always come back to visit, but he also is very important. There is a sister city relationship between Nomura, Japan, and Sitka, Alaska, USA, and Atsuo manages that. So Atsuo Sonoda, and he will introduce his guests.
Mr. Takazawa, he's working for the Nemuro City government, and this time Nemuro City sent 2 high school students and 1 teacher from Nemuro High School to the Sitka High School for exchange program. And those student teachers right now at the Sitka High School to join the classes. And both school had a sister city relationship, and so this last several years, you know, the COVID, the digital COVID, no exchange. So city of Nebro pushed for the relationship restarting, and this time the city government, their budget sent 3 person to Sitka. So nice. And to me, I'm not Rotarian, but your Rotary gave me the Paul Harris Award. I was so proud for me, and thanks a lot.
Thank you. Does anyone have any announcements? John?
Ladies and gentlemen, cap off your Alaska dating experience. Not that way. This year on Saturday, October 21st, join us at 11:30 at Crescent Harbor as we fill part of a 150-seat boat for a 3-hour tour, thanks to Alan Murray. All the money from this one goes to the club side, which means we can spend it on anything, which is a good thing. So if you're not already signed up, please do. If you can't go, we have a lot of students who will be going with us this time, and we could use some funds to help pay their way. So give me a call. And then the day's still not over. Mr. Bud.
Ladies and gentlemen and honored guests, then you can go to the Sitka Monthly Grind, the beginning of the 29th season at the Shikakwan Nakahiti. It's a variety show, tickets at Old Harbor Books for $5. And that's all I know.
Can you still bring a dessert?
You can bring a homemade dessert and you may win a fabulous prize.
Great. And John, will there be food, like snacks on the boat?
I'm glad you asked me that. There will be food and snacks on the boat. We have vegetable platters and meat platters and fruit platters and chips and goodies to your heart's content. That should keep you busy for the 3 hours in between all of the wildlife that you can enjoy.
That's Saturday, this Saturday.
This Saturday?
This Saturday.
Okay, what time?
Arrive at Crescent Harbor at 11:30, and we embark, and then we leave promptly at noon, and we'll be back by 3 o'clock.
Okay, do we have any other Any more non-Rotary announcements?
I know.
Nope. Okay then. So just a reminder for everybody that the district governor will be visiting in November. November 13th is what's scheduled. It appears we probably will not have a normal lunch meeting that week. We'll just go ahead and do a fellowship in the evening and have our board meeting that evening. And he'll talk to everyone at the fellowship. Just because they get in really close to when the meeting's supposed to start, and if there's any issues with the plane being delayed, like there was last year, we figured it'd be easier just to do an evening event. So, unless we get like an amazing speaker that can speak on that Tuesday, we won't have another meeting that week. But if we get somebody who's amazing, then we will. So, I thought we had somebody lined up, but unfortunately wasn't available. Jenna.
Oh, well, I forgot, I wanted to say something, and that is to our guest. My stepson received a scholarship from high school, a $10,000 scholarship from you, and and he went on. It set him on his way, and he's doing brilliantly. So, thank you.
And another date to keep in mind, October 28th, so not this Saturday, but the next Saturday at 1 is the Pioneer Home picnic, or pumpkin carving, which is at 1 o'clock. And you can bring a pumpkin of your own to carve and take home, or you can bring one to carve and leave there. Rotary will provide some pumpkins to carve and leave there. If you bring one, or if you happen to have hanging around your house those little like battery operated tea lights, or a little light that goes in a pumpkin that you don't care to keep, you can bring that and we'll put it in one of the pumpkins, because we're not putting actual real candles in their pumpkins. Those don't really actually work that well in Alaska anyway, I've found. I've started using other kinds of lights for my pumpkins at home because of the rain. But theirs will probably be inside, so they would be okay, but we're not giving them candles. So, anyway, so keep that in mind. And I think that is it for our announcements today. So, we have two speakers today, and they will be introducing themselves mostly. So first we're going to welcome Stephanie up to the podium. I'm just going to change this. You can change it back if you would like. Great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Sean has music or something.
Oh.
I think we're good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Stephanie Abril. I'm with Sitka Counseling and the Hope Coalition. Today we're going to be presenting on fentanyl. It's a great presentation that Clover actually gathered information on and put together. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Hope Coalition, we meet every second Thursday of the month. And the point of our coalition is to address issues regarding substance misuse in the community. And we really like to focus on the youth. At this time, we are putting together courses for Pacific, Sitka High, and currently working in Mount Edgecombe to help those kids that have been caught with substances, and we're helping them with education on misuse, as well as that'll remove demerits and prevent them from having to leave Mount Edgecombe and not get that education they are getting. Some events that we have going on to acknowledge some suicide awareness. Last month was Suicide Awareness Month, but we still want to bring some attention to it. The Hope Co will be hosting a polar plunge next weekend on Saturday from 11 to 1. It'll be near the Science Center. So we'll be doing that. We'll be providing snacks and hot drinks as well. And we'll also have the sauna there. So anyone that wants to warm up afterward, they can do that. Okay. But I will pass it off to Clover, and she will introduce herself as well.
Hello. Clover Yuchat Duasok Leika Chenach Sitka Kwandach Ayachat Yechnach City Ganach Tedi Ayachat Yaichitach Ayachat. My name is Clover Snelling Clenot. I am Tlingit from the Ganachteidi clan, actually from Yaikit, the whale clan in Tlapwan, but I was born and raised here in Sitka. Today we have a, like Stephanie said, a fentanyl presentation. I'll be... Oh, just give me a second. The impact of fentanyl on your mind and body. First off, we will be...
If you go up to the top of that inset window, you can minimize it and get it out of your way.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
There you go.
Thank you. I was a little confused. First off, we'll be starting with a video.
The opioid epidemic has reached our community.
In 2019, 49,000 people died of an opioid overdose in the United States.
That's
Need more
70%
volume.
of drug overdose deaths.
In 2020, that number was 384 in Riverside County alone.
There has been a rise in illegal and cheaply manufactured opioids.
Teens in our community unsuspectingly acquire pills laced with fentanyl.
On social media,
You can't smell it.
Or taste it, and you can't tell just by looking at them.
All it takes is 2 grains of sand equivalent of fentanyl to overdose.
So be aware,
take care,
because one pill
can kill.
Fentanyl is used medically to treat patients with severe pain, especially after surgical procedures. Fentanyl started being used medically in the U.S. in 19...
Kind of the life of the party, always like talking to people, making jokes.
There's a video playing in the background.
Just listening to people, just always
Oh
talking
my
to people.
goodness.
He's kind of a connector.
Okay. Okay. Fentanyl started being used medically in the U.S. in 1968 as a painkiller. It's known to be 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine is. Fentanyl is also prescribed with patients with cancer to help control breakthrough pains, and in 2015, 3,500 pounds were used in healthcare globally. Prescription fentanyl is not the same as illicitly manufactured fentanyl. Medically prescribed fentanyl is very carefully measured, and the way that it is set out is only the exact need that someone will need to be prescribed. It's very carefully dosed out and measured and able to be prescribed and given to patients, whereas illicit fentanyl is made with an unknown dosage. You don't know what it's mixed with, and you are never sure how much is in anything illicitly. So there's that unsurety of illicit fentanyl, which makes it very dangerous and makes it very yes, thank you. Versus medical fentanyl, which is made to be safe. IMF, legally made fentanyl, is commonly mixed with other drugs and made into pills to mimic prescription opioids. IMF can also be made into liquid form and be laced into nasal sprays, eye drops, or even dropped into paper candy. Because of the high potency and low cost, there are significant amounts of cases where fentanyl has been mixed with other drugs, including heroin, methamphetamine, and cocaine, which greatly increases the likeliness for a fatal interaction. IMF is extremely dangerous and easily flies under the radar when it is disguised as a non-illicit consumable, some of which include things that are made to look like prescriptions or even made to look like candy. It is completely tasteless, completely scentless. You could not ever tell that it's there. Long-term effects of illicit fentanyl: hypoxia, memory impairment, higher risk of suicide, brain damage, versus the short-term symptoms of illicit fentanyl, which are slurred speech, decreased appetite, overdose, etc. Withdrawal symptoms from illicit use. This is insomnia, anxiety, nausea, chills, and an increased body temperature. It also can give you hypertension, so that high blood pressure, increase muscle and bone pain, and sorry, I think I already included that. Along with also vomiting. Fentanyl withdrawal is not typically life-threatening in itself, but it does cause massive discomfort and in some cases can cause extreme dehydration. Symptoms of an overdose. This includes constricted pupils, low and shallow breathing or difficulty breathing, discoloration in the skin, especially lips and fingernails, slurred speech or the inability to speak, unresponsiveness, and vomiting and choking or gurgling sounds. These are specific symptoms of fentanyl overdose because of the different symptoms of different overdoses caused by various substances. Because fentanyl, which the next slide will show also, uses Narcan kits and naloxone, it's good to make sure that they are specifically fentanyl-related overdose symptoms, such as the ones that I have listed. In case of an overdose, in every heroin and opioid kit, there are easy descriptive steps for what to do in a situation of someone having an overdose, along with picture instructions. We have the piece that shows how to use nasal naloxone or Narcan, which I don't think we did not bring the overdose kit, which we were supposed to, but we're a little bit nervous before coming here. But it has very easy and very clear instructions on how to use it and when to use it, signs to look for, which will also, sorry. It's very easy to use. It gives very clear instructions for how to administer naloxone, which is like the kits that we use. It's nasal naloxone, so you hold it between your hands and then you put it up the nose and you spray. Before then, there's obviously you call 911 first if you think someone is having an overdose. But if you're seeing these clear signs of a fentanyl or opioid overdose, that is why we have naloxone kits and Narcan kits set up around town as well. And along with that, places in town that advocate and carry overdose kits. So there's the library, the pharmacies, police department, STA Social Services, Sitka Public Health Office, St. Peter's Episcopal Church, Salvation Army, Search, us at Sitka Counseling, and Center for Community. All carry Narcan kits that are handed out as people need them.
Fentanyl, along with other synthetic opioids, was responsible for more than 60% of overdoses in the U.S. in the 12-month period ending in October 2021, killing roughly 70,000 people, according to the Centers for Disease Control. Without acknowledging any wrongdoing, 4 large pharmaceutical companies recently agreed to pay more than $26 billion to the vast majority of states, local governments, and Alaska Native and American Indian tribes to fund healthcare and drug treatment programs to help ease the opioid crisis. Accountability is just one piece of the solution, though. Michael Troster, a retired Drug Enforcement Agency agent, says there are 3 legs to the stool of drugs.
There's enforcement, there's a treatment, and then there's demand reduction. And unless you're looking at all 3 of them, then the stool's just going to tip over one way or another. You have to do all 3 or it's going to fail.
Sandy agrees. She knew how to navigate the system to get her son into detox and treatment because of her profession.
I was able to do that for my son, but most addicts, alcoholics, unfortunately are separated from family and loved ones, so they don't have anyone to help them navigate the intake process. So that's one of the barriers to treatment that is in fact killing people.
Sandy says she and other families are working with elected officials at the local and national level to propose curriculum about opioids for middle and high school students. A lesson she thinks might help save the lives of kids like her son.
Young people are, experiment with things. He was a risk taker. He was a free solo climber, so that kind of explains a little bit about his personality. So many boys are bulletproof, and he believed that he was.
Troster said Sandy is one of 5,000 across the country that lost a child last year to an overdose death.
That's enough to fill up, a large football stadium. That's 1 year.
Happening all over the country.
But despite losing her son so recently, Sandy says her advocacy is helping her heal.
I've been taking care of him his whole life, and this is how I'm taking care of him now, still. So I'm compelled to continue to care for him, continue to tell people what killed him, and hope that someone doesn't die from fentanyl because of what I'm doing.
In Anchorage, I'm Jeff Chen.
As the video mentioned, fentanyl has an extremely high toxicity and potency. And the graphs here shown, this graph is talking about recreational drug toxicity, and fentanyl is way at the top compared to the rest of the substances. Thank you. So like if you look at the percentage of fentanyl toxicity versus the toxicity of heroin, it's a pretty big difference between these. And the fentanyl also has the highest in increase for drug overdose as well. Again, representing how toxic and high in potency it is.
A sharp increase in drug overdoses by Anchorage high school students has prompted the district to take action. Warren Maxwell was at West High School today for a school-wide assembly to educate students about the dangers of fentanyl.
At least 10 ASD students have overdosed since the beginning of March, and fentanyl is suspected in many of those cases. ASD says none of the 10 have died, but in that sense, they may have gotten a lucky break.
With other forms of alcohol or drugs, many times you get a second chance, and with fentanyl, you don't get the second chance.
It's a message the district wants all high school students to hear, seconded by classroom teachers.
Just because something's hard doesn't mean you don't need to talk about it. Usually you need to talk about it even more.
The district is talking about it.
With co-founders Sandy Snodgrass.
At a school-wide assembly where community members spoke about losing their children to the drug.
Jessica didn't want to die.
Students were also shown an emotional movie called Dead on Arrival.
Please do not let your family through this. And please, 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 I beg of you, learn about fentanyl now.
Where parents talked about their loss.
It really hurt to see the actual
parents' reactions, because it made me think, how would my mom feel about it?
The uptick in information isn't just for students. Principals have recently gotten training, including how to use Narcan overdose emergency kits that are now found in every school.
We distributed additional Narcan kits to the principals, so there's even more available at each school site now.
It's one way of being prepared for something this teacher says is the new reality.
I mean, not to be dramatic, but it's a matter of life and death. It is super important to hear.
She hopes the message is getting across. Now, the district says it's important to get this message out sooner rather than later. They're worried about end-of-year activities like prom and graduation and senior skip day, that those could include drug use, and they're hoping that students will make the right choice. For Alaska's News Source, I'm Lauren Maxwell.
What can our community do? Like what was seen in West High School in Anchorage, they started doing education in classrooms on the dangers of fentanyl and general substance misuse, and started including opioid overdose kits within the school. So they have prioritized that because it is such a new thing and there's a lack of education on it, especially in the school system, that youth may not know exactly how potent or how dangerous this substance is. And also because fentanyl is mixed into various other substances and can be mixed into pretty much anything, the risk of an overdose isn't necessarily caused from using any other substance. It could just be laced into anything simple, such as a candy, which has been found and is also one of the common forms of how people find illicitly made fentanyl. I also have it down to reach out for additional resources for those who may be seeking treatment, for those who are struggling with either general substance misuse, or those who may be seeking treatment or help for opioid addiction and opioid misuse. And here are our sources. Yes, I am finished with the presentation. We have questions? Yes.
Why is fentanyl mixed with other drugs?
Because it is inexpensive. It is a filler. Sometimes if someone who is selling the drugs wants to make them more potent, fentanyl can be considered a filler because you need a very little amount to be extremely potent. So I've seen it in where people compare it to like a grain of sand. You can overdose off of a grain of fentanyl. So because of its potency makes the drug's potency, whatever it's being mixed with, just as strong.
And while doing that, it's able to allow the drug dealer to extend their supply. They don't have to use as much of it by adding that fentanyl as a filler.
Yes.
The Sinaloa drug cartel recognizes the danger of fentanyl. It has just recently issued what amounts to a death verdict for people who manufacture or distribute it. So even someone who's associated with all sorts of drug distribution and manufacture recognizes that.
Yes, thank you.
Can you describe what an overdose would look like? I think as community members, it would be helpful to know kind of what are the signs that to look for an overdose in fentanyl.
Yes. Very commonly, the person will be unresponsive, so such as if you might like wave a hand in front of their face, they might not be focusing, or if you're talking to them, they won't be responding. There's also a very specific characteristic of the loss of color around the mouth, so the lips and the tips of the fingers may turn blue or purple color. Along with if the person is,
Point pupils?
yes, the pupils, the very shrunken pupils, and if the person is continuously throwing up, I do have a little bit more information on my slide. Here. Slurred speech, or sometimes the inability to speak and respond. Yes, also low and shallow breathing. The person also may have a, if you like know what to look for when you're taking someone's pulse, their pulse will be very slow. They will have a very low heart rate.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
In other words, the symptoms are the same as for all other opiates.
We had an EMT come in and tell us, but as I think there was one or two that were specific. If those are specific to other opioids, I was looking specifically at fentanyl. So as far as
It's very generic for all opioids.
I think it's because the opioid overdose kits, because they're generally opioid overdose instead of specifically fentanyl, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think that's just because I was researching fentanyl specifically. I wasn't looking too much at other opioid use, but thank you.
With that being said, Courtney, the EMT that came to show us how to use them, she also came to the HOPCO meeting to show everyone else how they're used. But she said there is no harm in using the Narcan kit, even if it is a fentanyl overdose. So if it seems that someone's needing it, don't ever hesitate to use that.
I think that's a good point.
Oh, yes.
If there was a problem using Narcan,
No.
or something else.
It's, sorry, gathering my thoughts. Well, if Narcan is being used, even though you may not know if it's specifically fentanyl or just if it's a general overdose, if it is not an opioid-related overdose, it will not reverse anything. The point of the Narcan and the medicine that is in the Narcan is specifically to target and reverse the effect of the opioid that the person is taking. Yes?
Go ahead, Dan.
Oh.
Is there any sign that the, say, drug-using community is beginning to recognize that fentanyl kills people and trying to not use it, or is it too difficult because it's mixed in with other stuff for them, even if they understood what was going on?
I don't know a whole lot on that specifically. I have, with some of my research that I was doing and some of the other informational and educational videos that I had watched, there was a drug dealer that had mentioned that he was like, I've seen people overdose from this, and it's very dangerous, and people are using it not so much because they don't realize how fatal it can be, just like people who are taking it aren't realizing how fatal it can be. So there are people that do recognize, who do sell drugs, that do recognize the danger and
how fatal it can be.
Yes, thank you. And how fatal fentanyl can be when especially when it's mixed with other substances.
And something they've started doing, people that are misusing the substance, there's actually test strips out there, so a lot of them started testing their medication or drugs to make sure that it isn't laced with fentanyl.
So to make fentanyl, there's a variety of different ingredients that you have to put together?
did not look into that specifically. To my knowledge, it is the singular substance. However, it can be manufactured illicitly versus how they make it to be used in hospital and prescribed. There is a different making process, but I didn't look specifically into that, so I don't know. But I will research that.
Well, and the reason I asked the question, I mean, sometimes you can put something into whatever that material is, it's going to identify it way down the line.
There are there is a project that takes it from a, what's the word? The middle. Harm reduction. There's an organization that takes it from the harm reduction side, so they specifically sell fentanyl test strips and test kits so that people can take apart their drugs. It gives you various different drugs that you can take apart, and then also tells you how to put them back together for use, just to make sure that they don't have fentanyl in it, which is from the harm reduction of, well, at least, like, they are using a substance still, but they are not using fentanyl without realizing it, so it's preventing that overdose.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you know the estimate of fentanyl users in Sitka?
I do not. We don't have specific data to Sitka. I believe there is specific data to Alaska, but because it is very recent, it's more recent to be found in Alaska. I mean, it's more recent to the states in general, but because it is especially recent, or especially new to Alaska, there isn't a lot of data that they have released. Yes. Yes.
Are they testing confiscated drugs?
I am actually not aware of that. That would be something that I would be
A
curious.
lot of places they are.
Okay.
And they're trying to find out what percentage of confiscated drugs have fentanyl in them.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to me to be fairly important data to have if
Yeah.
you're talking about a harm reduction act process.
Yes, it is. I will try to find some resources on that, and that would be good to input into the presentation as well.
Talk to the cops about it.
Do we have any other questions? Okay, well, thank you so much.
May we ask one more question? May he ask one more question?
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't have as clear in my head as you do.
Why don't you ask the question?
So the question I had is, why don't we blanket the community with drug test strips? Because that is something that puts in the power of the user to determine whether it's got fentanyl or not,
Mm-hmm.
whereas some of the other things can be punishing or whatever, right? It gives
Yeah.
them the power of choice, so.
Yes, that's actually something that we've been working on trying to get out. It is a little bit difficult because there aren't a lot of, the resources that we currently have are UA test strips, so those are specifically urine analysis, and that's you'll only be able to tell after you've taken fentanyl, which isn't very useful. That's about as useful as, oh, I have to go to the hospital now, but not as useful when in middle of using. So because of that organization that, I wish I could remember the name right now, but I do have on my personal computer information on it. We've looked at those test strips and other resources to try to get those to make it more accessible for our community.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm speaking to it, I have a family member that's addicted to fentanyl. And it's Russian roulette. It may not catch you this time, but you never know, right?
Yes.
And so anything that we can do as a community to address it, because down south it's been a problem for a long time.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, and it is becoming a big problem up here, which is also really sad because like I've lost people to fentanyl. So I understand, and I understand the potency and the dangers of it, which is also why I would I try to educate about it as much as possible because a lot of people just don't know. So being able to make those resources more accessible to our community is also really important to us at Sitka Counseling and to me personally.
And it gets it out of kind of a shame game to,
Yeah.
you know, you have an illness like somebody else and things like that, so.
Yeah, we don't want people to feel targeted by like, you're bad because you do this, or like, this is bad, don't do that. It's how can we help people?
And we prepared at Fortress, we have Narcan at Fortress. And our team is trained on how to use it because we don't know.
Yeah.
And we're so far out the road that by the time services get out there, you know, Narcan can make the difference between living and dying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Start doing work on Darren.
Now they're thinking more of mine.
Okay, so next week, which is October 24th, our speakers will be Representative Cliff Rowe and Rebecca Himshoot, and they'll be talking about Alaska's structural deficit and the options for addressing it. So hopefully you guys can make it to that. And I have no other announcements unless anyone else does. Hope you guys all enjoy Alaska Day, and see you next week.
We should have a